Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Mailin It, the official podcast of the United States Postal Service. I'm your co-host, Dale Parsan.
And I'm Yasmin DeJulio. In this episode of Mailin It, we're excited to talk with our boss and get to know America's 75th Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy, a little better. As background, the Postmaster General is appointed by the bipartisan Board of Governors of the United States Postal Service.
We plan to talk to Louis about his life as an entrepreneur before his government service, and why he joined the Postal Service. We've got a lot of questions about the job of a Postmaster General, the transformation currently underway, and where the Postal Service is heading in the future.
Louis, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Yasmin. How are you? Dale, good to see you.
Likewise.
Before we get into today's topic, would you mind sharing with our listeners a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sure. And I'm excited to be here and talk about all the things on the agenda today. But we'll spend a little time on my background. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I have a lot of different events in my life that led me to a point in my mid-20s to engage in my own business and trying to drive a solutions-oriented company for big clients, and I built it into a large technology-led third-party logistics firm, and I eventually merged it with a large public company and stayed there for a while, and then retired, went on the board, and poof, I'm here.
So being involved in logistics, how did you get interested in doing this?
You know, my background was in public accounting. If you call being 25 and having a background, I was a CPA. I had audited a bunch of different industries and so forth, and I enjoyed the diversity of, service and moving product and moving financial information, and moving dollars and cents. That's really what the supply chain became to be. It used to be called logistics. It used to be called project management and so forth. And I was at the cusp of the introduction of IT into businesses, especially the logistics in the late 80s. I looked for entry points for a new company where we could sell things that other people weren't doing at the time. And every dollar I had, I invested in good tech, good people, good technology, and went out and studied clients' businesses and came up with plans for their problems. I adapted the service throughout my career. I adapted the business and the service and evolved to provide for solutions for what clients need. And eventually I built up a base of infrastructure that was, brought a certain amount of expertise, ease of design and ease of implementation, for our clients, and it became, very scalable and so forth. And I was actually quite selective in the types of work that we did. I tried to only engage in, things that were complex in nature, that if we pulled it off, we would be different than most of our competition. And we were successful, successful in doing that.
So you've been with us for about a year and a half now. How do you view the organization after this time in relation to our strengths, our role that we play for the economy, so on and so forth?
The role that we play in the economy is, very, very important. And coming in during the pandemic was, for all the good opinion I had of the Postal Service throughout my life, coming here and seeing what we were trying to do under the conditions that we were doing, and then add to the fact all the other extraordinary types of activities we had. It's extremely important, both from the standpoint of serving the American people and to commerce. We're an enabler. So that's it. With regard to the organization, I am, and as I travel the country, I am extremely impressed with the level of talent that we have throughout the organization and the engagement that I have had from all of our employees across the nation, and especially our leadership team. It has been very enjoyable, impressive, and builds confidence and inspires me to continue with the fight, really, because that's what it's about, and it gives me a great deal of confidence. So I don't know that it was unexpected, but we have moved pretty quickly, and we have produced results pretty quickly. So I think in the realm of, how we have to move around here, and we've aligned the board behind us too, that's management, the whole management team, having a good plan that could convince many, minds of different, ideologies and certain backgrounds and so forth. And that's all of us joining together to drive this forward. You really can't come into an organization like that and expect that to happen as quickly as it had.
It's really interesting to me that you talk about the importance of investing in people and in technology, because I think those are some of the main components in the Delivering for America plan that was introduced in March of this year. Could you talk a little bit about the development of that plan?
When you want to invest, you have to have a vision for where you want to take the organization. And we have that now, and that's a lot of what the Delivering for America plan is. We are a going concern. We have a vision for the future. And we have to take the actions necessary now as an independent agency, which is what we are, take the actions now to generate the cash flow, to evolve the business so we can reinvest in it to continue that cycle in the long term. So the Delivering for American plan is about having a vision for the future and finding a way to get there. And that's really what the whole thing is about.
So the Delivering for America plan really has sort of the two key components as part of our 10-year vision. We want to achieve service excellence and maintain financial sustainability. So can you talk a little bit about some of the changes related to each of those components?
Yes. So I would always start with what is the main objective is, achieve financial self-sustainment, cover our costs, and improve our service reliability. But we also have to define the big thing in that, and it's in the universal mission. We're defining it, and it more or less has been legislated that we have to deliver to 161 million addresses 6 days a week. And that's whether we have one letter, we got to go buy the house if you have no letters, and that's a big cost. It's over half our cost. That is our mission. We commit to that, and then we're committing to trying to get self-sustaining, cover our cost. So when you think about the plan, everything in between that's on the table, right? It has to be adjusted. If you're committing, you're anchoring yourself and delivering to 161 million addresses a day. That's the unique service that we provide the American people. On the other hand, we won't be here if we continued in the path that we were heading, losing $87 billion. And, so we have to find a way to cover our cost. Well, therefore, you have to do things. What does that mean we have to do? Well, we decided that changing the service standard, moving from 3 days to up to 5 days for, about 30% of the mail. That gives us enormous flexibility to adjust what we move by expensive air, to move into our empty trucks on the ground. We run 55,000 trucks a day that are 30% full. So we can run those trucks 60% full and take a whole lot of mail and packages off of air. It gets down to how many retail centers we have, so on and so forth. These are, in my opinion, refinements to achieve the big objective. Deliver 161 million addresses a day, get the cost out that we need to get the cost out to be self-sustaining. And we still don't get there. We take out about $35 billion over 10 years doing those particular adjustments. But we also have a growth plan with USPS Connect that will add, at least $25 billion over the next 10 years. And as you know, we have to get the legislation, which will be about $40 billion. If we do all that, it throws off some $40 billion that we can invest in what I see as our priorities. We have buildings in our network that we have to fix those. We have been, dramatically behind on investing in our IT system. And as you know, we have to invest in our fleet, we have a 30-year-old fleet, which is a significant amount of money. So these are all obvious things that must be done to get the organization back on the trajectory.
Louis, the idea here is that the Delivering for America plan was released about 6 months ago, and we're moving towards our strategy towards financial stability. Where do things stand now in terms of service improvements, legislation, items like that?
So on service improvement, we have stabilized the service under the current environment. Our marketing mails had some of the best numbers we've seen in 5 years. First class is in the high 80s. With the standard change now, it's going to be in the low 90s. And so we haven't made any network changes yet, and that's important. But we are stabilized with regard to the service. We have changed the first class market dominant pricing. That went into effect in August. That's going to be a help. We have changed the first class package service. Remember, long term, the plan is to get an integrated mail and package network. We're designing a network to deliver first class market dominant mail. And we want our package business to move along with that. Because at the end of the day, it all gets to 161 million addresses. And that's what we're trying to do. So aligning these standards is very, very important. For the first time, we are at peak season level career and pre-career headcount today. We have never been at full authorized earned levels in our plants in many, many, many years. Right? That brings stability into the organization, which is why I'm so confident about peak season. And that's job number one. I think we will plan for a 91% reliability against our standards for 22, and then up to the 95 in 23 as we get our network together. So it's moving along nicely. And then the legislation, bipartisan bill came out of the House, bipartisan bill in the Senate. It's a good bill. I'm very impressed with how everybody has worked together to get a good bill. And it doesn't put a lot of operational restrictions on us, but what it does do is a lot of reporting against the Delivering for America plan, which I welcome. This is what we're saying we're going to do, and we're going to be accountable for it. So in the bill, the legislation I think just needs to find room, in the process, and it should get done. And I'm very pleased. It's an unfair burden that was put on the organization by Congress, and Congress needs to fix that, and I believe they will.
So a subset of the Delivering for America plan, one of the strategies has to do with something called USPS Connect. Would you mind telling the listeners a little bit about that?
Sure. USPS Connect is an exciting new way to look at the Postal Service and its network and its reach to 161 million delivery points each day. When we look at e-commerce growth, it's the consumer, at their home getting, everything from used to be electronics and books, and now it's consumables. And who better to deliver a big portion of this than the United States Postal Service? We're going there every day. So we have models that help the Main Street, the local business person, be as effective as Amazon in terms of delivering to They drop it off at their post office, and we can deliver same day. Frankly, I don't think the American people want to see 50 different trucks running up and down their neighborhood streets delivering packages, and we're going to try and make sure that we maintain our place in the economy. During the pandemic, the American people showed that they wanted to use the Postal Service to deliver packages. So we're gonna continue to help them with that as we move forward. Right now, we're running a pilot in Texas. We have 11 plants in Texas. There's 35 million people in Texas. We have 11 plants that you can enter at night, get processed, one truck, and deliver the next morning to 31 million of the 34 million addresses. So we're looking at a destinating entry type of process like that. And then we have other services that we're going to change around the nation in terms of looking at our retail ground product and our priority product and so forth. But nobody in the nation has the reach that we have to the consumer. And there's a lot of money in businesses chasing to build something out to get that reach. And we're just, repointing our efforts. And really, it's not anything new we're doing. It's how we're marketing it and contracting for it and allowing, our pricing and access to the whole nation when it comes to delivering the package market. And it's going to be a big deal for us.
So Louis, thanks for giving us some more information about the components in the plan. In the news, it seems there's a lot of narrative around the fact that the public is now going to have to pay higher prices for postage rates and receive a slower service through these service standard changes. Can you talk a little bit about that or explain what's going on from the Postal Service point of view?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So first, let's talk about from the service standard standpoint, and then we'll talk about the prices. On a service standard standpoint, we have not met our service standards in over 10 years. We were heading for disaster. And when I got here, we were supposed to run out of cash in September and lose $20 billion. Right? So it's just so logical that if we commit to the 161 million addresses a day, and we can't get mail from New York to California without owning planes, we don't own any. And to make the standard, we would have to rev up the cost-incurring, failing solution that we had. And that is, that's not the type of organization I think we should have. And, Congress gives us the flexibility to make these changes. And if you look at what the GAO report said, that just came out, they said that stakeholder resistance to change is a big reason why we haven't changed. Okay, well, that's not going to be the case anymore. And that is why by doing this, we think we could save costs and improve reliability against a perception that was eating a lot of cost and had no reliability, right? And that's what we're setting out to change with the service standard. And with regard to the pricing, this is a real, problem, right? We are the most affordable postal service in the world. And when the PAEA was passed, it established a relationship between the volume of mail and the costs of processing that mail, across the nation, and then capped us at a CPI percentage, and froze that for 10 years. Well, the volume of mail, those relationships of cost and volume were destroyed because of the decline in the volume of mail. And our cost inputs don't rise as CPI. So that was a relationship that began this problem and this erosion, and we didn't try to change it. Then, after the 10 years, the PRC, Postal Regulatory Commission, it took 4 years to conclude what they concluded, that diminishing mail mattered. But during that 4 years, our losses accelerated. So now we have the authority, and we need to use it. And I will continue using it until such time as we see that we have changed the trajectory of the organization. We do $80 billion worth of service right now and charge $70 billion. And we got to bridge that, and the plan lays it out. See, whether I run out of cash tomorrow or we run out of cash 2 years from now, we are still operating a business that is going to run out of cash. And that's the trajectory that we need to change. And in the long run, this is important if we want a postal service the way it exists today as an independent agency 10 years from now.
So looking back a little bit, you joined the Postal Service as Postmaster General last summer. Around that time and leading up to the election, there was a lot of scrutiny around the Postal Service during this season. So many more people than usual were using the mail-in ballots, and I think there was a lot of media and public concern that Postal Service performance and operational decisions around equipment and the processing network could impact the delivery and counting of ballots. So can you talk a little bit about what was going on then and what happened?
Well, first of all, none of that proved to be true, right? Because we had excellent performance for the election. There is politics in this town, and there's suspicion, and there's a press. And the fact of the matter is that the discussion about moving machines were non-consequential. First of all, I didn't direct the movement of these machines. This is something that gets done every year, and it was non-consequential to the mail processing, environment. In fact, the fact that we were frozen from moving those machines got in the way of our peak season performance afterwards. Collection boxes have been going over the last 10 years. We have, I forget the number, 100 and something thousand collection boxes left out there. Over the last 10 years, it's come down about 30,000 biggest year was about 5 years ago where they took out 6,000. Last year, when I got here, we had already taken out about 1,500. And the operating process around the country was continued. I can assure you, with coming into this organization at that point in time, it was not one of my first order of business is let's go find some collection boxes to remove. But the fact of the matter is, it was a sensitive time for the nation. These things were happening. However it was construed, it got associated with me and the organization taking some type of action, which is why I froze those things from happening. But I will say that activity did hurt us during peak season.
So to be specific, what was the performance of the Postal Service during the election mail season?
Well, as you know, we published a whole report, and I recollect that in the report it said 99.7% of the ballots were delivered within 5 days, which is what we recommended to the public, and I think 98-some percentage were delivered within 2 days, because most of it is local mail. So we did a very, very good job. I was extremely impressed in how the commitment and the extraordinary measures the organization took to make sure that every ballot we got our hands on and was visible got delivered to for the voter.
Despite everything the organization dealt with during last year's peak holiday season, between the pandemic, the election, supply chain issues, what changes are we implementing this year to deliver for the American people?
The fact of the matter is, last year, after years of underinvestment in the network, a lack of and the pandemic and the election season, coming off the election, and just a instability in our workforce to begin with, compounded by the pandemic, and a poor transportation network. We were, despite everybody's hard work, we were overwhelmed. And we had the performance that we had. So when we came out of peak back in February, we had a number of different things we do to forecast what volume is going to be, and then everybody starts to plan around that, and that took a long time last year. We bring out the data scientist, the economist, the Ouija board operator. We took December's volume, all of it, and half of January's, because we should have delivered January's in December, and said, that's the volume, now let's start planning. And everybody engaged it across the organization. We immediately converted some 33,000 pre-career people to full-time. That takes the turnover rate of that group down from 40% to about 3%. So we know they're going to be here come the peak season. And when we did that, it enabled us to staff up with pre-career in advance. Right? Last year, we kept talking about we hired all these peak season people. Well, hiring is not the indicator we need to work to, because if we hire them and they walk into the building and walk out, which is what they did last year, that has no impact. That's just hiring. It's how many people we have in the seats. Have we met our staffing complement? We're going to have pockets of issues, but we were in much better condition than we were last year. The other thing was space. We had no space. We were overwhelmed with packages, and we had no place to go with them. So we went out early in the year. We took down long-term facilities for 45 long-term facilities and about 30 short-term facilities. But the 45 long-term facilities where we are making an investment in stability. Now the people that go to work there know that they have a job. We put 115 or so package sorting machines in these things. And this was a race despite the heavy competition for facilities in the nation and the supply chain issues with getting component parts. This team rocked. I mean, they did really good work to get this done in record speed. I say this all the time. I've come out of the commercial marketplace, big projects like this. We've moved as good, if not better, than any commercial endeavor I have seen. So now we have almost 8-9 million square feet of facilities around the nation, staffed with sorting equipment in it. That particular volume will account for additional 5 million packages a day. We're doing things with regard to transportation, scheduling to get better utilization. We are taking a lot off the air network, which failed us. And our planning, we're planning as a team together. It's broad and focused and very, very exciting. So I'm very, very comfortable about the network processing. We have command centers set up across both the network and the delivery system. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see it play out. And I think it's going to be, we're going to get good reviews.
All right, one last question, and this is a hard one. What do you like most about the job of being Postmaster General?
First of all, it's important work, and I like doing important things. And I don't come here. I come here with knowledge of, despite public opinion that's written sometimes. I come here with knowledge of what it is that we need to do, especially that we're in the crisis that we are. We need to take action, and it's pretty black and white. I enjoy engaging in, leading the transformational change that we need to make. And you see a lot of retired people in my, with my background, they want to get on a spaceship to the moon or whatever they're doing right now. This is, being a logistician and having my career, what it was, building a company and serving the Postal Service over my past. I love the work. That's why I'm here all the time, 7 days a week, going at it, because it is really satisfying to try and make the change and lead the organization, this committed organization of 640,000 people, and trying to come up with a solution for everybody. So we're here. Yeah. So that's what I love about it.
Louis, thank you so much for joining us today.
This is great. This has been great. How many of these have you done so far?
I think you will be our fifth recording.
Yep, fifth.
Who's been your best?
You, of course.
There you go. You guys could stay in these seats for a while. Thank you very much. It was fun. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Louis.
Okay, time for Did You Know? In this segment, Dale and I will each share a fun historical or cultural fact about the Postal Service.
That's right, Yasmin. As the name of the segment implies, this is a chance for us to shed some light on parts of the Postal Service and its history that most people probably have never heard of.
I'll get things started this time.
Be my guest.
Dale, I know you know your postal history, especially after our conversation with Jenny Lynch on an earlier episode.
That's right. Jenny's the Postal Service historian who came on our podcast to talk about mail during the colonial times in the U.S.
Correct. Well, fast forward to the beginning of the 20th century, and the Postal Service wasn't allowed to deliver packages, letters only. That changed in August 1912 when Congress authorized the United States Post Office Department, that's what it was called back then, to allow letter carriers to deliver packages for the first time.
That sounds like a good thing, right? Why do I feel like there's more to the story?
Well, the first few years of Parcel Post Service were a bit of a mess. Starting January 1st, 1913, people began testing the limits of parcel service by mailing eggs, bricks, snakes, and other unusual packages.
I don't think it gets more unusual than mailing snakes.
Actually, it does. Maybe the strangest and most questionable use of the parcel service was parents mailing their children.
Wait, are you kidding?
No. And this didn't happen just one time. It was a thing, and technically, it wasn't against postal regulations at first. In January 1913, for example, an Ohio couple entrusted the Postal Service to deliver their 8-month-old son to his grandmother's house about a mile away. The cost? 15 cents. Luckily for the family, James, that was the kid's name, weighed just under 11 pounds, which was the limit for parcels at the time.
Not so lucky for little James, though.
One Idaho couple in 1914 attached 53 cents in stamps to their 5-year-old daughter's winter coat and sent her to her grandmother on the other side of the state, 73 miles away, riding in a train's mail compartment. It was cheaper than buying a regular train ticket.
You make this sound so rational.
Get this. One woman mailed her 6-year-old daughter 720 miles from her home in Florida to her father's home in Virginia. That's the longest trip we know of. But don't worry, Dale, this didn't go on for long. By 1915, the Postmaster General at the time banned postal workers from accepting people as mail.
That's going to be hard to top, but I think I'll give it a shot. Okay, imagine take your pet to work day, only your pet ends up sticking around for about a decade, and he keeps coming to work even after you leave your job. And then he ends up traveling around the world as a sort of ambassador for your employer.
I would say that my pet has loyalty issues.
Maybe so, but that didn't seem to bother Oni, a terrier mix who ended up being an honorary member of the Postal Service in the late 1880s and early 1890s. Oni belonged to a clerk who worked in the Albany, New York post office. In 1888, he started coming with his owner to work. When the clerk quit his job at the post office, Oni ended up staying on as the office mascot. Apparently, he liked the smell of mailbags and used to sleep on them.
Interesting, but I don't think I'll be trading my bed for a pile of mailbags anytime soon.
Oni soon began riding mail wagons to the train depot. Later on, he would ride the railway mail service train car down to New York City and back to Albany. Postal workers in Albany bought a leather collar with a tag reading Oni, Post Office, Albany, New York. As Oni's routes expanded, railway mail clerks recorded Oni's travels by attaching metal baggage tags to his collar to identify the rail lines he traveled on. At one point, it was said that Oni had traveled the length of every railroad in the country. It was also written in newspapers that Oni had seen the inside of more post offices than even the longest-serving postal inspector at the time.
Wow, Oni really got around.
He did indeed. In fact, postal employees, including the postmaster of Tacoma, Washington, organized a trip to send Oni around the world. Oni ended up traveling more than 140,000 miles in all, including Mexico, Canada, Singapore, China, and Japan. When Oni died in 1897, railway mail clerks chipped in money to have a taxidermist preserve his body, which then was sent to postal headquarters in Washington, D.C. for exhibit. Since 1993, Oni has been part of the Smithsonian National Postal Museum in Washington. On July 27, 2011, Oni was even featured on his very own Postal Service stamp.
Wow, that was a pretty good one, Dale, although I'm not so sure about the taxidermy part. I think it was a much better idea to have Oni immortalized on a stamp. On that note, we'll leave it there until the next episode.
So Yasmin, how'd you enjoy today's episode with the Postmaster General?
For me, it was really insightful to hear about how he developed the vision for the organization, along with a really clear plan to achieve that vision and getting stakeholder support along the way. What about you, Dale?
For me, I really enjoyed hearing more about the recent investment decisions we're making for long-term success, as well as how confident he is in our preparation for this year's peak holiday season.
That definitely came off, so I'm looking forward to see how we perform. Thanks for listening to our episode with the Postmaster General. If you're interested in reading more about the Delivering for America strategic vision, you can read the full plan on our website, USPS.com. Podcast updates are also available on the website. And don't forget to follow along on Instagram, @US Postal Service, Twitter, @USPS, and on Facebook.
Subscribe to Mailin It, wherever you get your podcast, to make sure you don't miss the next episode.